Influence, the study of influence. I am Thirukumaran, guest lecturer, Department of English of CPA College, Bodinayakanur. Influence. In comparative studies, while at the time of comparing, influence plays a major role. According to Weinstein, the notion of influence must be regarded as virtually the key concept of comparative literature. Before I am starting this point, I already mentioned that in comparative literature, the key concept is influence. Influence is the primary one. Studies since it posits the presence of two distinct and therefore capable entities, emitter and receiver. Here there is two people, emitter and receiver. One is giving his influence to the one has an influence, another one is a receiver of influence. Influence studies is an attempt to trace the influence of the writer or a set of writers upon another receiver in the area of theme, idea, attitude and technique. Influence is considered from all the aspects. In our world there are a lot of influences. That influence are not in all places. So we learn influence from many situations, from many other peoples, from many other countries. Influence is located throughout the world, but not located in all the world to grasp. Question of degree in comparative literature. Influence study is an important branch of comparative literature. Influence is the primary one to compare things. Influence is only a question of degree, whether it is direct or indirect, conscious or unconscious, strong or weak. In all the senses, influence are judged. If sometimes influence may be wrong influence, due to those aspects, influence questions of some degrees like direct and indirect, conscious or unconscious, strong or weak. Before we are receiving the influence, we judged completely the influence as what they are. The influence is more between one work and another work rather than between one writer and another writer. Influence is not about one particular writer or group of writers. It is beyond the reader, it's beyond the writer or a group of writers. It is more internal rather than external. Influence is selected and weighted only the internal side of the influence, not the external sides. Objection against influence studies. Some objections have been raised against influence studies by some American comparists, Marlon and Harry Levin. There is no problem in receiving influence from various countries or various peoples, but there is a doubt in receiving before the influence. It is said that the approach of positive and therefore mechanical. Sometimes there is a harm in receiving the influence from various peoples because peoples were influenced from different type of influences. So at the time of receiving, they face a lot of controversies in receiving the influence. It takes time to accept whatever the influence might be. Here the author is not doubt about the influence, but influence takes time to understand actually what it is. But this is not very much correct as influence study is not merely a cause of effective relationship. Any technique can become mechanical in the hands of unimaginative people. Most of the times, influence is a correct one, but people are not ready to accept the influence as what they are. This is the main primary controversies, main objections while receiving influences. The second objection is that the imaginative works are not amenable to factual investigation. There are two types of influences. One is visible one, another one is we can't see and touch, only we can understand. In our life, we can easily understood as what they are happen in front of us, but we don't have a capacity to understand, don't have a ability to understand the things happen. Things happen only through the understanding. These two types are second type is difficult one to understand. Second type of influence is such a difficult one. In most of the time we cannot we are not most of the time factual investigation is not a right choice. This is the main point of this subjection. This is a primitive view of criticism and has to be dismissed. Well, at the time of when we are receiving influence, don't be strict in these points. This is the advice of this writer. The third objection is that the influence studies should be concerned with the personality of the author, whereas his work must be evaluated in terms of literary tradition. Here the advice is don't receive blindly all the influences. According to literature, there are norms. Before receiving all those influences, we should check those influences are correctly comes under the sequence of literary traditions. S.S. Prower divides influence into three types. Direct borrowing requires balancing appraisal of similarities and dissimilarities between emitter and receivers. When at the time we borrow influence from other people, the borrowing people is suffered from those influences. This might happen while receiving influences. While author come across the experience in other literature, which is once they experienced in native literature. Sometimes we are facing influences is similar to our own tradition influences. This might happen in rare cases. Sometimes one have a chance to grasp multi influences from their country they live. Example, 3 types of citizens are living in Switzerland are French, German and Latin. Accidentally, people have a chance to come across the influence like Switzerland citizens. J.D. Shaw is another prominent influence person in influence studies.